Ho fellas, PB2 Smurf here. Today what I'm going to be doing is, as I was taking Toby to school this morning, I'm sorry I don't have any pictures of it. It was very, very, very cold this morning. I'm going to say roughly about 28 degrees to 34 degrees, right down there in Celsius. So when I first bought Buster, the emergency brake really didn't work at all. So I went ahead and just replaced the entire cable from lever all the way back. I didn't shoot a video over that because I thought, well, that's just maintenance stuff. And let's be honest, 90% of you out there are not really concerned with emergency brake. From what I've seen, my solid axle swap Toyota that I had, the emergency brake on it, I wanted it fixed because I thought, well, in a pinch, if I'm on somewhere I need to use it. But 90% of those trucks I've ever seen, nobody ever fixed the emergency brake. This morning when I went to take Toby to school, I realized when I pulled the brake handle up, I thought that maybe the cable was sticking because I could tell it was grabbing some when I went to pull out, and so I got down the road and I kept pulling the brake up and letting it off, pulling it up, letting it off, just trying to get it loose. I probably went maybe 5 miles down the road and I got out and it looked like this. Now that's not my exact vehicle, but it was bright, bright, bright red. I've had some issues and it was kind of froze up, so I thought, well, as preventative maintenance, I'm just going to replace them both. The tire that logged up was actually this one right here, which is the driver's side rear one. However, I'm just going to go ahead and replace them both, so that way I know they're both replaced. This one wasn't the one that had the issue when I installed the emergency brake cable, but I'm just going to go ahead and replace them both. I do know that I'm going to have to replace the rotors, especially on this side. So since it was cherry hot, I know that metal was really, really hot and it's really, really cold outside. So the heat actually caused the brake caliper to loosen up, or maybe it, got really hot and when it got cold, the metal gets hot and expands. And then when it gets cold, it shrinks up. Well, then in the process of doing that, where it wasn't at a steady temperature, guess what? It warped the rotor. Yep. Warp the rotor. The rotor, the brake pads, and I'm going to replace the caliper. And this will be on my 2007 Ford Focus ST, which we call Buster. And I'm just going to run through it real quick. I won't bore y'all with all the details. I realize some of y'all just get really tired of all these details, so I won't bore you none with them. But I'll go through and give you the highlights. So if you want to do this, you'll feel confident and you'll be able to do it. Without further ado, fellas, listen, let's do it. PB2 Smurf here. Oh, fellas, PB2 Smurf here. So just like y'all would assumed, underneath the back of the Buster right here at the cross member of the tire, all I'm going to do is just put the floor jack underneath here. Jack it up so I can get both the wheels up. Before you do that, I advise you, as I tell you all the time, make sure you chalk the tires. Also, don't work on the jack. I've said that many times, just don't do it. We can fix a vehicle, it can be fixed, but I sure don't want harmed over a set of brakes. And you don't either. That right there looks good. So the tire's off the ground. Another way I can tell too is maybe I need to be a little higher. You know what it's time for now, right? You know what it's time for? The wiggle test. Call that good. Now, in case none of y'all have ever had a brake caliper seize up, I do want you to know that there's a good 100% chance this wheel and brake caliper and things are really seized on there. So if you take them lugs loose, which I have, and mine come off. So mine come off, but if you have issues getting it off, if it's dire needs, you could take a sledgehammer and hit the sidewall. You want to hit it opposite from each other all the way around the tire to get it loose. What I found works for me, and this is the reason why I do the wiggle test, is I turn around with my back facing it, and then I kick it backwards with my foot. So it looks something similar to me standing like this and it mounted on there, and I'll kick this side, the other side, kick it there, and I'll spin the tire a little bit and then do it again till it comes loose. This is one of the many reasons why you don't want to work on a jack, and you want to make sure that you do the wiggle test. But it goes without saying, don't beat your wheel to death. Same thing as with the tire. These bolts are probably seated on there pretty well. Hold this caliber on. I did, once I replaced the emergency brake cable on Buster, I actually went ahead and replaced the slide pins and the boots on both sides. One of them was missing. One of the slide pin was, whole head of it was rounded off. It was real pain in the butt to get, but I want to go ahead and address that while I was at it. So now we're at this point, guess what? I don't have to deal with it. I know these are good. Don't have to replace it. Another thing is slide pins. Do not put wheel bearing grease in slide pins ever, because what happens is that wheel bearing grease will interact with the rubber in these boots right here, and it will cause them to erode. As they erode, they'll get back in on these slide pins, and when they do, guess what? They'll seat these slide pins in here, and that's exactly what somebody previously had done and caused one of these slide pins to seat in here, and it was pretty much crap to try to get out. So don't use that. Instead, you want to use pure silicone paste. I couldn't find any local, so I had to order it online. I know these are seated on there. They're a little loose right now, but you can hear it dragging. Right there. See there? I'll tell you right now, it's warped. Rotor definitely has to be replaced. Now, I will tell you that you can go ahead and pull this emergency brake cable right here off if you'd like. I find it's easier to loosen the bottom fastener that holds the caliber on. Once you do that, it'll fold up. And when it folds up, it'll give it just enough slack, and this will slide up and slide out. Another thing I placed this cable was back inside this groove right here was in pretty bad shape, and this bracket wouldn't slide in there. And this is a pretty tight fit right here. So I had to take and grind the sides of this off to get it to fit so it would slide over it. But this thing's pretty aggravating to get on there to get fit just right. So these are probably 1/2 inch, but I got all metric tools, so I'm using 13. Take this one off. I'm gonna take the bottom one off. Once I take the bottom off, slide it up, remove this. Then I can move this one right here. Then we'll start with a rotor. Now you can use a breaker bar, but for this specific instance, I'm using this tool right here. I really like this tool. Watch the Project Farm video. I already have this complete set as y'all seen me use, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try. It does fit in a lot better places with the really, really small battery, so I would urge you to do that. Otherwise, the handle's really heavy on it. But it does the trick, and I really like it. This is not just a ratchet, it's an impact ratchet. If you put a 13 or a 1/2 inch on these bolts and it just spins, it'll spin the slide pin. There's a nut that's located. You can see it better on the top here. This nut will hold with a 15 and then loosen those. And when you do, it'll slide it out, because that's all you need to get this off with. As you can see, the bolt just runs through and goes into the slide pin. So yeah, it's on there. Oh. Yeah, she's on there pretty good, so guess I get me a pry bar. A pry bar stick right here, and then I'll raise it up and it'll come off, because I know this got really, really hot, and this thing's junk anyway. Yeah, toasty. In case you can't hear it, I can. Oh. Well, knock the light out of the way. Now, these are the pads that come off Buster. As you can see, it's got so hot. Look here, it cracked. See it right there down the middle? The other one's got a crack down it too. Now, these pads are relatively new. Look at the thickness on them. They seem to be wearing evenly. As you can see, with a little bit of wrestling, I was able to get the emergency brake cable, which goes in here, off. As I've said, the interference fit on this end right here that the cable actually goes on over top of it there is very, very, very tight. So in order to get that off, it's a little cumbersome. So what happens is the emergency brake cable feeds through this side right here and goes to that bracket end. And what happens is when that thing feeds through right here, it gets stuck. It gets stuck inside this right here, and there's really no wiggle room. So that emergency brake cable gets in there. If it's on this, you'll not move it off. So you got to move that, get it off that before you can slide it out, which I guess is a good design. So don't worry about it coming off in an event you need the brake in an emergency, but it's a real big pain in the butt. Another thing you can see is the threads that are on this. When you put that bracket back on there, you can clock that to where it'll pull less or pull more on the emergency brake here, just the fuzz, so that way you can get it just right. There's not a whole lot, but you can probably do a couple of teeth there. You can get a pretty good close-up and see the teeth on it right there. So you can clock it a little bit and get you a couple grooves on it. if you really need it. So either which way, we got it off. Now we got it off, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna work my way back in. I'm gonna do the caliper last, so that way I don't lose as much fluid. And I want to make sure that the caliper is the correct one. You want to do that before you take it loose. So that way you got fluid draining everywhere. Another thing about our new garage / workplace is I'm not used to having something where I can't drop stuff all on the floor. You know, when you're outside, if you drop a little oil, whatever, oh, no big deal. But now working inside a garage and a clean floor, other than keeping it clean, which I plan on doing, you get you a drain pan, keep your drain pan in here. Now we got this off, pull the rotor off and get it out of the way. And it's glassed over pretty good. And as you can see with the new caliper, it comes with a bracket and all. Right here's the emergency brake cable bracket I was telling you about. Oh, and I'm assuming you'll want a part number too. There's the part number. For the left side, see the L at the bottom right there? The other one, for the right side, or the passenger side, there's a part number for it. Now, I am not sponsored or saying these are the best brakes ever, but out of 18 parts stores, it's the only place that could get them for me within a couple hours, so these are the ones I went with. So after a little bit of wrestling around, I managed to get this cable back on there. Like I said, it's a real pain in the butt. It just slides in there one way. Got it fitted on there, got the spring, make sure it's lined up, all that lined up. Now we just got to tighten these bolts down and do the same thing in reverse. I did remove these new boots and verify that they do have grease in them and that they're good and they don't need anything added to them. I could technically reuse my old hardware that I already bought, but these come with new ones, so I'm just going to use the new bolts, slide pins, boots, covers, and all that stuff. Be patient with this right here. It is very, very, very aggravating. I found the easiest way to do it is to remove the spring. So that way you could pull this to you. So I had the cable on it and it didn't seem to want to slide over. Like I said before, fellas, it didn't really want to slide over this ear right here very well. But after I did get it slid over, it still wouldn't go down in the groove. But once I did that and I put the spring on it and it right in the right spot, the angle on it lined up just right. And as you can see, she's lined up right there where it needs to go. And it is functional. The word of the wise, this emergency brake cable is very, very aggravating. Very aggravating. Thanks, Ford.